citrus care,
Yeah.
and even houseplant care. So,
You
sorry.
took my line.
Sorry. I did.
Try to feel more excited.
More excited? I wasn't excited enough? Hi, I'm Peter Eastman. I am the tree and shrub buyer at Al's Garden and Home.
Wait, I was not in place.
Hi, I'm Peter Eastman. I am the tree and shrub buyer here at Al's Garden and Home, and I'm here with my coworker Judy, who is a perennial and houseplant buyer, and we're here to talk about all the things you can be doing in the winter garden.
Yeah, you know, it's been pretty mild, so you can get out in the garden and get ahead of all those spring chores.
So follow us along as we talk about winter pruning of shrubs, and also Judy will be talking about perennials.
Yeah, so you know, this is the time to take all that old foliage and hellebores and also your evergreen ferns and deciduous grasses. And then I'll bring us all inside and we'll talk about houseplants where it's nice and warm and cozy.
So before we get started in the garden, I wanted to talk about some of the gardening tools that I like to use, my go-to, especially in the wintertime months. As far as gloves go, you want to have a good assortment of gloves. These are my go-to all season. They're rubber coated, light, easy to use. You can tie string with it, you can cut anything with it. I love those, but in the winter times, when it's cold like in January, I like to have something that has a little more insulation in it because your hands do get cold. And then of course, you got to have a pair of leather gloves for when you're doing roses. I love roses, have a lot of them, but you definitely need to have some leather gloves. These are fantastic ones from Burgeon and Ball. Love those. As far as pruners, my go-to pruners, of course, is the Felco hand pruner. I enjoy I like the number 2. It's the standard. It's been around the longest. Every piece on this pruner is replaceable. So when you buy one, you're buying it for life, basically. Get yourself also a little hand sharpener because you're going to want to make sure that pruner blade is sharp every time you go out. Every time you go out, you're going to want to re-sharpen it every time you go out gardening. So a little hand pruner, little hand sharpener really helps. Other great tools you should have. A pair of shears, head shears. If you're pruning back perennials, this works really well. If you're pruning other shrubs and stuff, a good pair of head shears is good. A pair of loppers. If you're pruning any sort of trees, whether it's fruit trees or roses or anything that's got big, thick limbs, you're going to want a pair of loppers. I like this pair, these Felcos. They're smaller, but I can get up into fruit trees and stuff, and they're much easier to use. And then last but not least is a good pruning saw. You definitely want a pruning saw. This one here is by Corona. Felco also makes one. But you just need, when you've got real big branches to take out that neither of these pruners would do. You want yourself a good pruning saw. Typically they fold in for protection, so you can put it in your back pocket when you're climbing a ladder or whatever. But yeah, those are some of the tools I really like to use when I'm gardening. Winter is a great time to prune your deciduous shrubs that are not spring blooming. So we don't want to prune roses or summer blooming. We want to think about summer blooming shrubs. Hydrangea is a classic example. They don't bloom until May, June, and then on into July. So it's what I like to do is leave all the flower heads on through the fall till all of the foliage is fallen off, and that makes it a lot easier to prune. If you prune off the flower heads before this, you can't tell which ones bloomed and which ones just didn't. So this one here is not a repeat bloomer. Some of the new hybrids are repeat bloomers. This one is not. So we want to be careful that we don't prune too hard down into the old wood. Anyway, I'm just going to take these flower heads here and I'm going to take it down to where I see 2 healthy buds on the stem. This time of year with all the leaves gone, it's just super easy. I can see this stem here, the flower, and I'm just going to cut it right above where I see a couple healthy buds. These buds are going to come up and they're going to be the blooms for next year. So really super easy to do on your hydrangeas. Just look for some 2 or 1 healthy buds, and that's what you're pruning down to. If your hydrangeas have gotten a little bigger, you can prune harder, but you aren't going to have as many blooms this year, so keep that in mind. Also, if you've got a branch that didn't bloom at all and it's got no bloom on it, go ahead and leave that. That one there is going to give you a giant big bloom this next spring. So make sure you're leaving those and don't touch them. Leave that terminal bud. All these ones that bloomed though, we're going to go in here and we're just going to cut them down to a healthy bud. Here's your healthy bud. If I thought, well, I want to make it a little shorter, this is getting too big of a plant, I'm going to just go down one more pair of buds here. But what we don't want to prune into is this old wood, which is much lighter color. That's 2-year-old wood, and we don't want to. If we prune all the way down to that, we're not going to get flowers because the hydrangeas tend to bloom on last year's wood. The last year's wood is a very dark chestnut mahogany type brown color, and you can see the healthy buds coming out of it. Here's another good example right here. On the other hand, the 3-year-old wood, the very old wood, is this real light color. We want to make sure that we leave healthy buds on last year's wood, which is this dark brown, and that we don't cut all the way down into the light wood because it will not bloom from this wood. So we want to make sure that we have we leave some of this dark brown last year's wood, because this is where you're going to get your flowers for next year. Hey, welcome to my greenhouse here. This is where I keep overwinter all my tropicals and things that won't take a heavy frost. But the big reason I have this is for my citrus plants. I love growing citrus. It's easy to do in the Pacific Northwest. I like to put my citrus trees here. I've got a Meyer lemon here, and I've got a variegated Eureka lemon here. I like to do them in the Jappy pots that we sell at work because they're so lightweight. And with citrus, you got to move them in and out every year, and so you want something that's real portable. Citrus is a winter fruit. They ripen in the winter. If you're ever in places like Florida and California, that's when they all ripen on people's trees. So it is now January, mid-January, and my Meyer lemon here is ready to pick. So Meyer lemon, again, spends the summer outside in full sun, as much sun as I can give it. It blooms with those fragrant blooms all summer, and then I bring it into this greenhouse, which I keep at 50 degrees. No, it doesn't get any drop below 50, but it also keeps it out of the rain. A big thing with citrus is they don't want to be in the rain all winter. So at the very minimum, you got to have a place where they're going to be out of the rain all winter. And then in January, you get to come out here and pick all this wonderful fruit. Fantastic. And then here is the variegated Meyer lemon. You can see not only is it a beautiful bush, it's got this beautiful, fantastic foliage, but the lemons themselves are actually variegated. So once this is a little hard, but we'll ripen this in the house. When we open it up, it's pink inside. The flesh is pink. So very cool. And yes, you can too grow citrus in the Pacific Northwest with just minimum needs. Hey, thanks for hanging out today in the garden with me as we did some winter pruning and cleanup. I'm excited to have you guys back in spring where you can see the results of all this work that we've done in the midwinter to the garden. And then now I'm going to send it over to Judy. Judy's going to talk about winter perennial pruning and also houseplant care.
Well, it is midwinter and we have not had too much cold weather. So you can go out in your garden, and it doesn't have to be a sunny day, but maybe a dry day, and you want to take out the old foliage of your hellebores. We were kind of busy here at Al's and we didn't get a chance to do this, so I'm doing it now. We also, because it's been kind of wet and warm, we've got a little bit of botrytis, and that's that fuzzy stuff on these flowers. So I'm going to cut that off and not spray it. So I'm just going to take those off. And because these have been blooming a long time, they've gone from the white flowers to the green flowers. So hellebores will begin blooming when they're supposed to bloom for their variety, but then they stay on for months. So they go from their color to like this light green, but they're still very pretty. And then like in April, late March, you can always take them off and you'll have the beautiful foliage for the rest of the season. So I'm just going to go through and just kind of cut it back a little bit. And I'm going to take back some of this old foliage from last year because it's pushed some of its new foliage already. You can kind of see that coming up. So it's really just maintenance here. And Also, if you do have like slugs in your garden, you do want to use some Sluggo or some kind of slug bait, because the slugs do not eat the foliage, but they love the flowers, and they might even eat them when they're in the bud form. So kind of go out and look at your plants and see if you need to put down some slug bait. So I'm going to take some more time with this in the next few minutes, but I'm also going to do some other maintenance here while I'm right in this bed. So if you have any heucheras right now in your bed and they have all of these old flower stems, it's a great time to take all those off. And you can take off some of the old foliage on those. And here's some more Hellebore foliage. This is a really shady bed out at our Sherwood store. And we have a lot of leaves in here that are just protecting the ground. I'm going to leave those on until early spring, and we can take those leaves off. The other thing that you could do in the garden this time of year is you could start to take off the old foliage on your evergreen ferns. So this is a tassel fern here. So what I'm going to do is just go down and I'm going to take off all of this old foliage. I'm sorry, it's an autumn fern. And you can kind of see that it's the old foliage. You can tell it's the old foliage because it's the big foliage. And it's all from last year, and they do get kind of ratty. And if you see these little spots on the back side of the leaves, those are actually called spores. Ferns were in the world before flowering plants were in the world. They're very ancient on the earth. And so this is how they make new plants. So it's not insects, it's not a disease, it's just the seeds, you can say, for the next generation. And then come in late spring or so, you're gonna see all the new fiddleheads coming up in the middle of the plant, and that is really cool to see. So it's really great to do the ferns in mid to late winter, because then you might not accidentally take off some of those new fiddleheads that are coming up. So really, this is the time of year to see deadhead and also take off new foliage. So this might be a better sample of what your Hellebore might look like in your garden. This one hasn't really kind of pushed out yet, so the flower buds are just coming out. This is last year's foliage, so I'm just going to take all of that old foliage off, but I can see some new stuff in there, so I'm going to leave some of it. But you can see this is some of the new leaves going on, and then a lot of the energy will go into the flowers and all the new foliage. I wanted to talk about some of the varieties that we have here at Owls. You know, the breeders are really making more beautiful foliage. Isn't that gorgeous? From just a straight green, you have red stems, and then it has these red flares here, and then the white veins. And this one is called Anna's Red. It's a frost kiss Hellebore, and then it has that deep pink flower, just so beautiful. And so, you know, the foliage will stay evergreen, and then we have some white flowers that are very pretty. This one is called Ice and Roses White. That's very beautiful. And then here's another one. So you see, the foliage hasn't come up yet. Usually the flowers come up, and then in probably another few weeks, you're going to see more and more of the foliage come up. And this is another Ice and Roses, but it's called Red. It's very deep pink with these little freckles on it. And here's another beautiful one. Here's another Anna's that has a little bit more of flowers and more of the foliage. And what I love to do, but with my Hellebores at home, is I like to take a little bit of the color inside. So I like to take off the flowers, just the flowers. You don't take the whole stems. It's one of those flowers that just doesn't do well as a cut flower, but you can float the flowers. Whoops. So you just take off with this a little stem, and you put it in a pretty bowl. I'm even going to take one of the leaves here, and we can put a leaf there. You can get some of those fern leaves too. We're going to take some of the white ones, and that's kind of a greenish white. So you can just pick an assortment of the flowers from your garden, and maybe there's some other foliage you can put in there or other flowers that you could float together in a pretty shallow bowl. So there's always something to do out in the garden on a nice day and to get you back in the gardening spirit in the wintertime. This time of year you can work on your ornamental grasses that will start pushing fresh foliage as we get into late winter, early spring. This is a Pennisetum little bunny, and so you can see that it was really pretty for the winter time, has a lot of winter interest, but now it is time to cut it back. And so, but before I do that, I notice a lot of weeds. There's always weeds in the garden. Even if you just do 5 minutes every day, you get ahead of all those weeds that have germinated and started to grow during the winter time. The ground is pretty moist, pretty wet, so these come out really easily. So you just have to take them out. You even get the roots. If you have a tool, bring that out, that's great. But they just are really coming out really easy. I would leave the leaves until later before the soil really warms up. It's protecting your soil. And it's also going to add some nutrients as those leaves dissolve into the ground. All right. So what we like to do with this is get a bungee cord, or if you have some heavy string or rope, and what you do is you wrap it around the base of the grass, and what it'll do is keep all the grass fibers together, all the foliage. You want to do it pretty tight, so then you're not chasing all of the foliage when you give it a cut, and it'll be in one big hank. Then you take your pruners. If you have a saw, sometimes the foliage is really rough, like on pampas grass, or if you have a hedge clipper, that could work, but I'm going to use hand pruners, and I'm just going to go through. There's even some new foliage coming up already. Don't worry about that if you already see that. It's been a really mild winter, so it'll just put out some more foliage. Don't worry. And you can always clean up anything that escapes your bundle. But this has really saved a lot of work in my garden because I have a very windy garden, and usually the wind is up and it gets to be a big mess. This way it's all together in one little ponytail. And then you can mound up all of those weeds you got, and you have an easy cleanup, and you're ahead of the game for spring. Are you missing outdoor gardening this time of year? So why not bring your outside gardening indoors with houseplants? Really, at any of the Owl's Garden Home stores, we have a big selection of new houseplants for any of your needs, for high light, low light, medium light. And that just brings up a really big tip, is this time of year, you should have all of your houseplants closer to a window or get some lights to help augment the sunlight. This time of year, we still don't have a long day of sunlight, so really your plants need a lot of light. You also want to maybe adjust your watering because our houses are a little bit warmer and a little drier, so make sure that you're checking them for water needs. And also don't forget to scout for insects. They love to kind of blossom when it's warm and dry, so go in and kind of look at them, maybe get a damp towel and wipe off the leaves so there's not dust on them, so they can absorb as much light as possible. All of our Owl stores too have plants for high light and for low light. And one of my favorites for beginner and for low light, easy care are snake plants. They come in all different colors and shapes and sizes. They take low to medium light and low water needs. You won't have to water them too much. We're all really busy, so it's nice that our house plants can kind of take that busy time and really survive without a lot of care. And then one for maybe a favorite or something just to try is the new ficus, the new rubber plant called Moonshine. Look at these foliage. It has all these little spots and stripes. It's way different than the old-fashioned one that's been around forever, the rubber trees that we all know and love. At any of our Owl stores, we have experts to help you, so if you have any questions about your house plants, please come by and visit us. We also are getting in fresh plants in the nursery and all kinds of goods for the springtime. So please stop in your favorite or your local Owl's Garden and Home and talk to us today.